The point is to give numbers to what you're doing and to give a better sense of your improvement areas that are not generic but quantified through that match that you play. And it's a point of impact for any player. When they lose a match, they will probably listen more to what it takes to potentially have won that match.
Hi, and welcome to the Raj Goodman podcast. Today, I have got a good friend of mine, Paul Ipe, all the way from India. And I must say, he's one of the smartest people I've actually ever known. So, no pressure there at all, Paul. And let's get into it straight away. Tell us, who is Paul Ipe?
Hi, Raj. Great to meet you. It's been a long time. Who is Paul is typically a complicated question for me, simply because I tend to overthink things. If I were as smart as you said, maybe I'd have a simpler answer. But right now, I'm an entrepreneur. I started a company, and we'll get into that a little bit. I also consider myself a sports person. I've been playing actively for a long time, lots of sports, and currently I play pretty competitively in squash. I'm the men's over 40 India number one national champion, and I do represent the country in international competitions once in a while. Uh, Most importantly, my sense of self is probably I'm a father and a husband, two daughters. We have things going pretty good in Bangalore. And before that, on the work front, I was a management consultant. So after spending about 17 years in the industry, I've decided to take the plunge and meet you on this
That's
side.
impressive. That's impressive. That's impressive. I mean, obviously, your career spans across software, strategy consulting, entrepreneurship in sports now. I mean, what principles kind of guide you to this diverse transitions? I mean, you obviously jumped around a lot, and that's awesome. That's all about learning and growing, right?
Absolutely. Initially, I've always viewed myself as somebody who would be loyal to one company, and things just got in the way of that, because of which I've moved around. But I did spend around 11 years at Accenture, and in terms of guiding principles, I think the few that have stuck with me is if an opportunity presents itself, don't overthink. If there's learning, go for it. And the second one was keep the customer first, you know? So I had never seen myself as an entrepreneur, but when I got this opportunity, I realized it was a problem I was passionate about. I genuinely wanted to make a difference in the lives of athletes, and just believing in the problem helps. So it's not entrepreneurship for entrepreneurship's sake, or to be titled an entrepreneur. I'm almost an unwilling entrepreneur in a market where people aren't trying to solve this problem. Uh,
I understand. I understand. I mean, just going back to obviously talking about you talk about Accenture and you worked there, for example. Um, I'm really keen to understand. Obviously, all about learning on this podcast. So tell us, what are the maybe a couple of things, two or three things which you saw, which was common in your growth strategy role in Accenture, right through to your customer service at Paytm, what pattern strategies were consistent, which led you to success, and has that also come to the next startup you're working on right now as well?
sure. Um, I think sometimes we may tend to live in our own bubbles. So there tend to be those echo chambers, and I may be saying very generic consulting principles. But as a background, when you're in consulting, you get to see a variety of industries and a variety of different types of leaders, right? So I've worked with beer manufacturers, alcohol manufacturers, soap manufacturers, aspirin manufacturers, bra manufacturers, companies from 100 million to about 20 billion in sales. And the real learning, more than a particular project, whether it's supply chain, growth strategy, digital marketing, is really seeing how different leaders deal with challenges and their teams. under various situations. And what you try and do is make sure you're always observing and picking aspects of their leadership that you want in you. What has typically helped me within the space in terms of guiding principles that I take forward, the first is just data. The most successful people that I've seen typically tend to be more data oriented, at least in the industries that I've worked in. It's possible there are completely new spaces where you have to go a bit more with gut, but I'm a data first person. And the second is listening. I mean, if you want to build a team, it's important to listen. Everybody normally has a point of view for a reason. So you may or may not agree with their final view, but it's very important to understand where people are coming from. And I feel if you have these two things on your side, it's possible to make a career, at least in the traditional corporate world.
I love that. I love that. And obviously, as I say, you have 2 years and 1 month for a reason. So I think listening is a superpower, which perhaps we all don't use as much. But love it to kind of remind ourselves about that. Now, obviously, you have jumped and moved from a very exciting career to something more exciting, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm a big believer in all of entrepreneurship, and so tell us what is the next thing you're working on, and what led you to the idea and the actual vision for the company.
Great. So I'm probably more scared than you are excited, but at the same time, it is a hell of an opportunity. I'm working on RallyVision. RallyVision is an AI platform that analyzes your videos and tells you how to improve as an athlete. So we work in racket sports, and the basic concept is if you record a match or a training session of yours on video, we will give you guidance on how to improve by looking at a combinations of tactics, techniques, and so forth. Why are we doing this? We are doing this because through my travels in the squash circuit, what I realized is there are a whole lot of children who don't have access to great coaching, who don't have the mental aspect of the game down pat. And analyzing match videos, understanding patterns is something that has not percolated into the coaching ecosystem yet. There is a fair bit of it now in football, basketball, and other team sports. But when it comes to individual sports, people are left a bit on their own, and they're left to the devices of their coaches. Some are good, some are not that great, but even the good coaches don't have the time that it takes to go review a full match and give that individualized feedback to people.
I understand. I understand. And tell us, Paul, how does it work under the hood? What's that you building under the hood to get this very powerful opportunity for the squash champions of tomorrow?
Great, yes. We're going to start with squash and then we'll be expanding to other sports. And the way it's being built right now is from a concept, you just upload your video and in an hour you get all your stats back. But under the hood, there are a lot of models that go into ball tracking, player tracking, event recognition. So you basically figure out where's the ball, how was it hit, if it was hit as a forehand, a backhand, down the line, cross court, drop, right? Then you overlay on top of that where was the opponent standing at any particular time. So essentially, if you hit the ball right back to your opponent, it might look like a good shot, but it's strategically not a great shot. And then you do some things like based on how fast you hit it, how tight you hit it, how far away from the opponent you hit it, we tend to score all of these and finally give you feedback on we believe your forehands are 80% accurate, 60% effective. Your footwork is, an area to work on because you don't come back to a central position on the court and so forth. So the point is to give numbers to what you're doing and to give a better sense of your improvement areas that are not generic but quantified through that match that you play. And it's a point of impact for any player. When they lose a match, they will probably listen more to what it takes to potentially have won that match.
That's pretty incredible. And obviously, it's not easy to build something like this because obviously it takes a lot of GPU power, creating material, creating content. Tell us, how are you even going about this, starting about this, creating content for for this application?
Well, first and foremost, I found a way to get somebody smarter than me onto the problem. So I have a co-founder in who's a specialist in computer vision. He has a couple of patents. He's been in a tennis startup before. So from that perspective, we're kind of sorted on what the tech needs to be, right? We've hired a couple of engineers while we're still raising around because we need a few more people to get this fully sorted. We collect data, we tag it, we train models, look at accuracy, and what we're trying to do is in parallel, nonetheless, go to market with a semi-automated product. We don't want to be spending 2 years building out the product without sufficient customer feedback, right? Uh, so slightly different, possibly different, you could tell me, from most startups, but we do want to see how fast we can get to an EBITDA positive number. Like, we're still pre-rev. We're gonna do some marketing activity in Jan, but the goal is out of the box build something that works not just for the masses, but even for professionals. If I can give somebody who already has a near world class coach good feedback, then potentially I can solve the problem for everyone.
I understand. And again, not an easy problem to solve. Starting with squash and then going to different areas sounds very exciting. Obviously, tagging the videos, bring the models, having co-founder who can actually get this done for you and help you to achieve that. That sounds really, really awesome. I want to ask you a question on this sudden rise of AI in the mainstream. So obviously, this is an AI tool under the hood in many ways, and what we're seeing is there's a ton of companies out there who are building wrappers around a problem they're trying to solve. So they basically build the AI wrapper around it. It's obviously not what you're building. You're building something which is generally always taking data from proprietary sources and then using it to train your models. What are your thoughts on others who are doing what I can call like a wrapper business in AI? Do you think that that's something which people should be looking at in the future, or there is limited scope from your perspective, Paul?
Good question. Like I said, to me, I feel this problem hit me in the face, and when looking for a solution, we realized this is how we should build it. One thing that does keep me up at night is, what if OpenAI suddenly comes out tomorrow with a chat GPT for sports? Then, irrespective of you calling it going deep tech right from the beginning, it will suddenly look like a wrapper business, right? It just is what it is. Uh, there is an element of creating a product, and there's an element of capturing the market. If you think you have a USP in capturing the market, maybe the wrapper business makes sense. Um, but otherwise, to me, Raj, and happy to hear your thoughts too, I feel it's a tough business where you're going to constantly be looking over your shoulder for the next person who does it a little better, a little cheaper, and there's no competitive advantage that you might have. In fact, to be very honest, uh, I quit consulting maybe a year and a half ago, and I feel that half the work that I used to do, I can now do in ChatGPT in 5 minutes. It just is what it
Scary,
is.
isn't it?
It's exciting. I mean, for me, I look at it as time saving for now, but it is absolutely incredible, yes, what it can do.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting part of it, right? Like there have been so many these startups who initially jumped in the bandwagon, famously Jarvis, which is a content creating tool, and even Grammarly to some extent. They use machine learning at a very very early stage before, let's call it, ChatGPT like tools became mainstream, and but then when OpenAI went all public and started to really pushed their 3.5 model and 4, that really led to not a great sort of place to be for these companies. And I know that OpenAI is launching their live video tool in January, I believe, of next year. So now we're currently in November 2024, and they're launching the live video stuff most likely in January 2025. And but again, what they don't have, which you have, I'm guessing, is that proprietary data and the way you're going around doing the RallyVision product. Would I be right to assume that?
We'll have to see what they build, but our belief is that they won't build sufficient context for sports and racket sports specifically. Now it might turn out that from what they do, there are certain elements, if there are APIs we can pull out and feed into our models, but the context and understanding of a sport at the nuance level that we will have it, hopefully, is our moat, which doesn't enable other people to just come in easily.
Completely agree with you. And I think many a times it's not about the actual product, it's about how you go about the market, launch the growth strategies which you might have. Obviously, you'll thorough experience in that, obviously, with your focus and background in consulting. So tell us, what are your plans to kind of, how are you going to go about launching and promoting Rally Vision for the prospect customers to come on?
It's obviously a multi-pronged approach. What we have said is we are starting in squash because we believe the go-to market is slightly less complex. It's a smaller community of players. It's a tighter knit community of players. There is some level of higher affordability among them, uh, and they are more starved for analytics compared to a few other sports. While all sports do have gaps, squash definitely could use more analytics there. In terms of multi-pronged, we obviously have to work with coaches and clubs. We are working with federations because they're the ones who have all the highly competitive players registered, whether it's under 13, under 15, under 17, boys, girls. We are in connect with a few top players in the world, right, to try and get them on as ambassadors. And we're also working with the PSA, which is the Professional Squash Association, right, in talks to try and get a partnership because they also see the need for data as we go ahead. The other good part about squash is it just got selected to the Olympics in LA 28. So all of us are trying to figure out how to make the sport a success. The more analytics you have now, the more engaging even broadcasts and things like that are, which will help overall viewership, which will help the sport move forward. So we're targeting serious players first because we are a performance improvement tool. Uh, while we give you extremely detailed insights, if you read it and don't go on the court and practice, you're not improving. So we're targeting the people who do spend 5 to 6 hours a week on court. They have their all India rankings or their Australian rankings, and they're trying to keep it up as they go through age categories. We're working with the federations to talk about the importance of analytics in a long term program in the run up to get medalists either in LA or Brisbane. Um, and we're working with professionals because we feel if we can make a professional gain an insight into their game, then our product is definitely world class and it's easier to scale it to people further down the ladder that are aspiring to become professionals.
I love that.
Once we do
So would you,
that, then
sorry,
we will
please
go to
continue.
other sports. Yeah. So the thought process is, in a year, we should start seeing enough repeat purchase, enough penetration to say, as a model, this works. We figured out the go to market. We know what are the tendencies of coaches versus students, what are they like. And then we go to sports where maybe the environment may or may not be more challenging in terms of number of clubs, competitiveness between clubs, interplay between federations, players, coaches, etc.
I love that. So would you say that the LA 2028 is a big part of the strategy for the growth of RallyVision?
It was a fortunate coincidence that squash got into the Olympics at that time, but it definitely helps when speaking to people, because we all do have that one goal of helping make the sport bigger, helping people achieve their dreams, right? We're all about improving your performance for a certain goal and dream. So it's definitely made our go-to-market strategy a bit easier, or to get doors open a bit easier, because everyone wants to do what it takes to get
I love that. I love that. And obviously, that is something which we can see with the passion. Obviously, leaving a great career and jumping into a startup needs a lot of belief and courage, and obviously, you mentioned both of them. And that sort of brings me to the next topic, which I believe is a very important part of every founder or entrepreneur's way of being, is their legacy and vision. So you talked about your vision already. What do you believe will leave as a legacy in this space? Maybe it's in squash, maybe it's in AI, maybe it's in consulting, maybe it's just generally as a father. Is there a legacy which you want to leave behind as you move to this very uncharted territories of entrepreneurship and growth?
I thought you told me there were going to be more tough questions.
This is an easy question, man. One thing good about like entrepreneurs is that we love talking about ourselves. So talking about vision and legacy is always something that I love talking about. So yeah, what would you say would be your legacy? Maybe it's as simple as living life. Yeah, whatever that might be.
My legacy, or the legacy I want, is very, very simple. I just want to be a good dad and husband. I'm supremely confident that I'll be a good grandfather, and just make sure that, when I'm old, you have your kids and people you love around you. Non-legacy of way further down on the legacy pole. I wouldn't call it further down, right? But even for people to just remember you as a good and ethical person. While the legacy is simple, living up to it is not easy, because you need to practice it in every aspect of life. It can't be that I'm a good dad and husband, and I have colleagues on the work front who think I'm an idiot, or I'm unethical there. The both don't go hand in hand. So one of the things I had mentioned to you was also that, hey, I want to raise, I want this to be a profitable company as soon as possible. I'm not in the business of raising and burning, right? As far as a startup goes, even if this is geared more towards a deep tech space. So building a sustainable company is definitely one more aspect of what I want to do. Does it need to be $5 billion in valuation? Doesn't matter. Does it need to be a company that tried to do most things right for its customers and its employees from day one? Absolutely. But that's not really because I think of my legacy as a businessman or an entrepreneur. It's just how I think of myself as a person.
I love the answer, Paul. Thank you for sharing that. It's a very, very good thought you have, and I think in many ways, as we jump into making our vision a reality, we forget about ethics and what is ethical. We start to think about to make as much money as possible, or to get the next best shiny thing in our portfolio happen. And here, I love to kind of see where the vision is, and clearly the vision which you have is to be a good father, be a good husband, and it's not easy. I mean, I'm a father now of one child. He's 4 years old, and I must say I struggle a lot to be the best version of myself, because I'm just not very good at it. But equally, I feel so blessed that I have someone who I can, who's mine, and I can shape potentially her future, and equally allow her to be herself. So a nice mix of the two.
Fatherhood definitely changes you. So there's just no two ways about that.
It does. It definitely does, and it's been a very good journey so far. So yeah, just kind of going back to where we were. I was talking about vision. We're talking about Paul, father, husband, entrepreneur, ex-consultant. If I was to ask you, and this is going to be a tiny bit of a hard question, but I think I know because you're the smartest person I know. I know you have answers for every question I'll probably ask you. Um, where do you see yourself in the next 10 years' time?
Great. Just one thing about this, one of the smartest people you know. When I went to college, there were 400 people in college, and I realized I knew 399 people smarter than me. I did think I was smart for a long time until I realized I wasn't. But that aside, 10 years from now, I am purposely trying not to think about it because it's hard enough starting something where there is ambiguity. I'm trying to make the right decisions every day at a time. Look a bit to the future, not really in terms of a full fledged end goal, right? Like, so there are no numbers, revenue, employees, all of that, but just in terms of impact that we can make, right? Can we be multi sport? Is it possible to have an annual report where we say 15,000 athletes played a lot better than they thought they could? Uh, Purposely trying to not think about it too much because I think otherwise the pressure would get to me, right? I do have to figure out stability, things like that, because we have taken a jump as a family in order to do this. And I'm just trying to compartmentalize decisions that we have to make versus outcomes that may or may not happen.
Well, I think that's what makes a great entrepreneur, right? Somebody who comes to make those very uncomfortable decisions for themselves and their family. If it was that easy, we all will be running businesses and we all be turning over a few $1 billion, right?
But what have you heard from other people, though? I'm very curious as to how they view life in the future and stuff like that.
Well, I think everybody has a different answer. My answer tends to be that I actually have a posted note in front of me, which is I'll bring it up. Well, legacy. I think it's obviously inverted on the microphone on the camera. Was about leaving a legacy because for me, a legacy is really important so that I can train the next bunch of entrepreneurs, next citizens to make this world a better place, and that seems to be a big part of what I want to do. But it's just my personal goal. I don't want to be the most famous person alive or anything of that sort at all. But to just make a positive impact because at some point in my life I started to become less religious and more about good karma. And I realized that the more you give, the more you receive. The opposite of giving is not taking away, it's receiving. So there's a lot of good opportunities we have as individuals to make positive impacts around the world and change the world in a small way.
Yeah, I fully agree with you on karma. And I also feel the only way for me to raise two good, healthy kids that contribute back is for them to see parents who are also kind of satisfied and comfortable with who they are. They work hard every day. You might have goals, but definitely not get into negative echo chambers if you just constantly trying to be greedy about what all you can take out of life.
I agree. And I wish that was a message we all knew it better and followed it as well. But it's so hard. And I see so many people who going to deviate from the path of being good people and get sidetracked by a lot of lust and shiny things.
Definitely hard in the startup space, Raj. I'm telling you, like, fundraising is not easy, and it's a constant battle between, how shiny do you make an object look. I still don't have the right answer, but we'll see how we get there.
Well, I wish you a lot of success there, Paul. I know you're going to do great things. You still are the smartest person I ever known. So I have full faith in your abilities, and I know you're going to smash it.
Thank you so much, Raj. All the best to you too with your legacy.
Thank you. Thank you, Sir. So for people who want to know more about Paul Ipe, where can we find more about you? Maybe a LinkedIn or a website, perhaps you can leave us with.
Absolutely. You can search for Paul Ipe, Paul space IP on LinkedIn, and you can check out RallyVision at rallyvision.in. If you
That's
just send an
awesome.
email to paul.ipe at rallyvision.in with a video of your match, we'll get back to you.
That's phenomenal. Well, definitely want to get my game going. I got a squash racket somewhere. I must say I can't play at all. But one day with the app, I will get there. So thank you, Paul, for this lovely opportunity to talk to you. Thank you for coming today. Really good chat with you, and can't wait to see valuation growing from strength to strength.
Thank you so much, Raj. It was a pleasure.